Hi guys, it's Andrew here from Eastonmade today, and what we have here is every single machine that we actually built. We have a lot of questions. I get a lot of phone calls from guys wondering what machine is going to be best for them. So I'm going to take the time today and I'm going to run you through the features and the design characteristics of each one of these machines, and hopefully it'll help you choose the right machine for you. In terms of our machines, you're not going to go wrong buying any one of them, and that goes for pretty well any commercial grade splitter. If you're looking at these splitters, I've said this before, when you get into this caliber of splitter, it's gonna make your life so much easier, and you get your time back. Like you end up, if it takes you an hour to do a job and you can do it in 10 or 15 minutes, you gain a lot just doing that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you the differences in all of our machines here, what they all come with standard options, and what they're available with. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down there. We're going to have a lot of cool videos coming up here the next couple weeks, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that. We're going to start with our Ultra here. It's the least expensive splitter that we have, and it's also the fastest. This thing here cycles in about 4 seconds down and back. So if you're looking for an all-out performance splitter on a budget, then this is a machine to go for. You can split just about anything with this. It comes standard with a 4-way wedge. The wedges are adjustable. There's different adjustments underneath it. There's a pin that goes in, so you can raise the wedge up and down. This runs a Galtech valve, the same as our other machines. It just you pull it forward and it's manual forward, and then it'll detent to retract, so it'll follow its way home and then kick off. And the nice thing about these Galtech valves is the detent section on the back of it. They're a lot heavier than the Prince valves, and then on the front of it here, there's no exposed linkages or anything on them. They're a sealed unit. There's a ball joint in there and they're packed full of grease, so they work really, really well. And this is the same as our other machines. It runs around 3,800 psi, runs a really high pressure. So if you're looking at these other machines, this one here is about 14 tons. It's really not that far off what a lot of companies will call a 20 ton or a 22 ton. It's pretty close to that. And like if you're comparing like a box store splitter, this would be about the same as a 28 ton you buy at a box store. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at specs on these machines. And there's another company out there on the market, in this commercial market in North America, that are building a vertical wood splitter. And if you take a look at this, that's the same size cylinder. Same bore, same rod configuration. This cycles in 5 seconds, or 4 seconds, sorry, and it's doing a 24-inch stroke. If you look at the competitors with that size cylinder, they're doing a 20-inch stroke and it's cycling in 5 seconds. So that's just the power of a 2-stage pump on them. They work really well. It has an 11 horsepower Honda on it. It's a GX series Honda. It's a genuine Honda. There's 13-inch tires. They're a good sized tire, so if you're going around your wood yard, you can actually roll over stumps in and out of ruts and stuff like that, which is important because it's a wood yard, right? If you're out in your yard or in the bush or whatever, that stuff's gonna happen. You might as well have a machine that's gonna be able to do it. There's a 20-gallon hydraulic tank on it, so there's lots of fluid in there. And then it actually has an in-tank filter on it too. So the filter is in here. Like if you look at a lot of other machines, the filter will be hanging off the side of it, and it's just really vulnerable like that, where this setup here, it's not like that. And if you look at this cylinder here, it actually bolts in. So that bolts the frame. So there's actually no movement in that cylinder at all, which is really, really nice. Just in terms of wear and longevity, you're not going to get it much better than that. A lot of other splitter manufacturers will run a clevis on both ends of them, so the pusher and the cylinder itself flops around a lot, where with this set up like this, it's just really, really stable, especially being on that 2x6 frame. This is a really, really rugged, really durable machine. If you're on a budget, or maybe you don't, maybe you have a way to pick up those big rounds, maybe you have a mini skid steer or an excavator or a tractor bucket or something, that you don't necessarily need that log lift, but you need something that's going to perform really well. And the hitch on this machine will go on both ends too. So right now it's in the splitter end of it, so if you're pulling down the road, you want to go that way, just because it gives you more tongue weight that way. And then you can actually take the tongue and put it in the other end of it here and pull it out of your wood pile. So then your tongue isn't buried in your wood pile. So that's pretty well what we've got for the altar there, guys. If we move over, the next one up is our 511. This is a pretty rugged machine. Like for a machine that has a 6.5 horsepower engine, you will not find one any heavier than that. This is the first machine that's built off this heavy chassis that we have. And you can see, if you look down here, every one of those machines is built off a very similar chassis. We're actually doing a price increase this year just to adjust these so it makes a little bit more sense to our accountant here. Most guys that have been in business are aware of having a profit margin and where you kind of got to be with it. And now that we're building these machines so heavy, there's so much steel in them and there's so much cost involved in doing it and doing this caliber of a job. We're gonna have to do that. But you can take a look here, guys. Like I said, it's a 6.5 horsepower GX 200 Honda on it. It's an 11 gallon per minute pump on it. It has a 25 gallon hydraulic tank on it, so you're not gonna get this thing too hot with that much oil in it. It's a really big tank to pump ratio on it. The log lift on it here, it's cleat. The top is cleated, so it grabs the wood really nice. A lot of other companies will run like a mesh top on them, and if you've ever thrown like a block of wood onto expanded metal, you know that's not going to last terribly long. This guy here actually opted to have a taller wedge in it. That is an option we offer for them. It's really nice. Still runs Galtech valves on this one. As you can see, it's a monoblock valve. So you have your log lift up and down, and then your wedge up and down. And then this is the same as the altar, where you pull it ahead, you have to hold it, and then you can retract it. It'll automatically retract for you. So that's what the standard valve is on it. We do have an option for auto cycle, same as our bigger machines. You can see that this is already set up, the pusher set up to run a box wedge if you wanted to. You can get a 4 or 6 and a box wedge for this machine. It's still that really heavy frame underneath it. Like that's a 1 inch I-beam in there. There's 3/4 inch bolts, a big heavy 1.5 inch pin, and there's a 3 inch rod in the cylinder. So it just makes it really stable. Everything on it's replaceable. So there's the nylon bushings in there. Floating log lift on it. All the pins are actually bolted into it like the proper machine is. Each one of these pivots has a bushing in it too. So you can see that this is just a really good, really rugged setup. Underneath it here, you can see the cylinder end is protected really well underneath the machine. It's up out of the way. There's nothing at the back of it. The wedge is really well supported back here. You can see the wedge is a full one-piece wedge. And this is the same as the altar. You can pull it both ways. If you're gonna pull it down the road, you pull it from the splitter end. It gives you the tongue weight. Same idea. Pull it from the other end. And then there's same tires on it, 13-inch tires. I don't think there's much of a point in running a different size tire on a wood splitter. Like I said, you have to roll over logs and blocks and ruts and crevices and stuff like that. So there's no point on putting a lesser tire on. Like the cost difference for putting a good tire on it versus a cheap one or a smaller one, it's negligible. You might as well do it right the first time and have it done right. So that's our 511, guys. Like I said, big heavy chassis. We'll move on to our 916 here. This is a 916. It's actually an 11 horsepower engine that's on it. It's a GX 340 on it. Commercial grade Honda. You can see this is the same machine. Like if you look at this, it's almost identical. The biggest difference in this is we have a little extra valving on here to get rid of the oil because there's so much flow, or so much more flow coming back on the return stroke on this, that we have to be able to get rid of it. So that's why we have that. It's still the really big heavy frame, big chassis under it. We have the wedge system underneath, the same as our other machines. Comes standard with a 4-way. This is the same deal with the Galtech valves on it, forward and then reverse. And then you have your wedge up and down, and then your log lift up and down. And then this can have the auto cycle option on it, just the same as the 511. Really nice if you're working by yourself, even with somebody else for that matter. It just saves an extra hand. Like, instead of having somebody loading a machine or loading a log lift, you just set a block of wood in the log cradles, it centers it up on the wedge, hit your auto cycle, and away you go again. So that's what we have for the 916. You can see this tank's a little bit different too, because that comes back off of that check valve there. And you can see how substantial the check valves are on these things too. Like, a lot of companies will run like an aluminum block, where this is an actual proper pilot operated check valve. They just flow a whole lot more oil, and it makes a big difference in them in terms of performance and heat and everything like that. Now this is our 1222. This is kind of our flagship machine. This is what a lot of guys end up buying, because this thing performs. It's down and back in 5 seconds. You can't bring wood to this machine fast enough with one person. You're going to be 2 or 3 people to actually run this machine at its limit. It's a 12 horsepower engine on it. It's a GX 390. It's a 22 gallon per minute Galtech pump on it, so it's really high end, really good pump. And you can see just how substantial that Q130, that auto cycle Galtech valve is. So you just hit both your levers and the splitter will travel down and back for you, and then it'll be sitting here waiting. They will kick off around third power. They'll kick off right around well, maybe a little bit more than that. I guess they kick off around 15 or 1600 psi, which is normally 700 or 800 psi than we've been able to get the Prince valves to be able to do. And again, you can see how heavy the detent sections are at the back of these things. Everything's sealed up in here. The hoses are all rooted nice. They just last a long time when you take the time to route them properly. Big heavy beam underneath it. This 1222 comes standard with a 6-way wedge. It's an option on the other machines, like on the 511 and the 916. So it comes standard with that. And it's interchangeable. You can do the 4-way, do the 6-way, or do the box switch. And like I said, these machines are all set up to have the box wedge option on them now with the pullback arm. The other thing you get when you go up into this 1222 over that 916 is you get that 6-way wedge, obviously. You get the full auto cycle as a standard option. You get an oil cooler on it, so if you are down south somewhere or you plan on running this thing commercially, you can run this all day and it's not going to get too hot. And then it comes standard with electric start on it. So normally by the time you start putting all those options onto the 916, you're not too far off of actually going up into this 1222 already. So if you're in between these two, just keep that in mind. You're not going to go wrong with that 916 by any means at all. Like, if you're in that price range that competes in, you're not going to find a heavier machine at that price. And like I said, like, these already come with the fast cycle options on them. They already come with good valves. They already have all that stuff on there, where if you start looking at the other competitors' machines, all that stuff's options. For me, I don't see the point of making something like that an option, because it doesn't make any sense. If you're buying this caliber, this grade of a wood splitter, you're gonna want that stuff. And then that brings us over to this. This is our 2228. If you're looking for the end all of wood splitters, if you own a tree service, if you get big, nasty, gnarly, ugly wood, if you have guys that are rough on things, if you want performance and production, this is the machine for you. It's got a 22 horsepower V-twin Honda. It has the oil cooler, comes standard with auto cycle on it, same as the 1222 does. The biggest difference between these is the size of that cylinder. It's a 5-inch cylinder and it has a 4.5-inch rod. So it's a really expensive cylinder to get built, but it really makes this thing perform. Like, the cycle time on this 37-ton splitter is 6.5 seconds. Right now it's pretty well unrivaled in the industry. You'll get a lot of them up like 7.5, 8 seconds for something like this, and they'll be around that 30-ton mark or 35 tons, where this thing's 37. You could even turn it up higher than that. It doesn't need it by any means, but if need be, you'd probably even get 42 tons out of this if you actually wanted to crank it right up. We run this at 3,800 PSI like the other machines, but because of the engine and pump combination on this and having extra horsepower, we could probably turn it up quite a bit higher. Just like we run the Galtech valves that are rated at 5,200 PSI, and then the pumps are rated at 4,500. So you'd probably get it there if need be. And like I said, you can see how substantial, how much thicker, how much heavier the wedge is in the back end of this splitter compared to the other ones. It's the same beam, but the back end of it's so much heavier. It's all AR400 on the back of it here, so it's just really durable stuff. It's really high tensile strength. Come around here, I'll show you the engine. So there's the engine on. It's a 690 Honda. Like a lot of companies run like a 630 on them, but again, like there's not a big price difference going from a 630 to a 690, so you might as well just put the bigger engine on it and be done with it. It has a boat tank in it. It can be removed, so if you want to buy like a second tank with this just to have it filled up, you can change them in and out quick and easy. It just has a clip there the same as what your outboard would have on it. Yeah, so anyways guys, I think that pretty well covers all of it here. If you have any questions, by all means please ask. I think just thinking if I missed anything here. If you have any questions, by all means put them in the comments below. Give us a call. Phone number here is 613-812-3213. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and like I said, if you have any questions, by all means please ask. You'll be more than happy with one of these machines. I can guarantee you that, like any one of them. And like I said, any commercial splitter for that matter, if you're actually looking at any of them, whether it be one of mine or one of our competitors, this is gonna speed you up a whole lot. Like if you're in the firewood business and you're not at the point of buying a processor, or you have wood that's not really processor grade wood, then one of these machines is gonna speed you up like 4 or 5 times easily, and make your life that much better, especially with the log lifts on them and the auto cycle. You're gonna be so much more productive and happy. You're not gonna be wore out at the end of the day. So anyways guys, again, phone number here is 613-812-3213. Hit that subscribe button and let me know if you have any questions at all. Thanks a lot.